A very warm greeting to everyone present here. Today, we will be talking about a book, a revolutionary book named as The Ways of Seeing, which is officially written by John Berger. Giving a brief information about this book comprises of 7 chapters, out of which 3 chapters consist of only picture, while the other 4 consist of words along with pictures. Coming on to our first chapter. In this chapter, John Berger points out that the way we see things totally depends upon our knowledge of what we know. To give a brief explanation of this chapter, I would like to call Shreya.
Chapter 1. The author here starts by saying that seeing comes before words. A child sees and recognizes before it speaks. The relation between what we see and what we know is never settled. Viewing is always preferred than listening. Looking is always our choice. Soon after we see, we are also aware that we can be seen. The reciprocal nature of vision is more fundamental than the literature. An image is a sight which has been recreated or reproduced. It is an appearance or set of appearances which has been detached from the place and time. Every image embodies a way of seeing, like a painter's view is reconstituted by his marks he made on the canvas or the strokes, etc. Previously, images were made to conjure up something that was absent. Later, it showed something somebody had looked at once. Images are always preferred more than literature. Old paintings also leads to mystification. Everything is not supposed to be predicted by whole painting. This example can be showed by painting by Frans Hals of Regents and Regentresses. There are differences in perspective from past to present. Perspective depends on the eye of the beholder. Perspective makes the single eye the center of the world. Then the introduction of the camera. The camera isolated momentary appearances. It destroyed the idea that images are timeless. When the camera was invented, a picture can be viewed at the same time in 2 different places, which is not possible with the painting. This changed everything. Original images of the old paintings had its own uniqueness. It was rare and also expensive. The Virgin of the Rocks is an example of a painting which has its own uniqueness because it has entries of all its owners. A sentence below a painting can change the whole meaning and perspective of the view. Like The Wheat Field with Crows is the last painting done by Van Gogh before he killed himself. The art of the past no longer exists as it did once. What matters now is who uses it and for what purpose. These are the main points listed in the chapter 1.
Coming on to our next chapter, that is chapter 3, since chapter 2, chapter 4 and chapter 6 contains only pictures. This chapter is basically an argument between the Western nude art and the present day media. I would like to call upon RITHIKA ROBY to give the detailed explanation of this chapter.
In chapter 2 of the book, Ways of Seeing describes the social presence of men and women. Men is showcased as symbol of power, strength, and temperamental, whereas woman's presence is seen through her voice, clothes, or gestures. The first nudes was depicted from Adam and Eve in the book of Genesis in the Bible. So during the Renaissance period, known as the moment of shame, in those paintings, they cover themselves with fig leaves. The difference between nakedness and nudity is that nakedness is just to be without clothing, whereas nudity is a form of art, as nude photographs or poses or gestures. Photographs can be rarer than paintings, but a painting of Rubens of his wife is as instantaneous as a photograph. In the European art form of nude, there is always a spectator who is presumed to be man and the object is treated to be a woman. In the modern art form, the category of nude has become less important, but still women are depicted in a different way than men because the spectators always presume to be a man. And however, in the European art form, the principal protagonist is never really painted. So that's it about chapter 2. Thank you.
With this, we come to our last chapter, that is chapter 7. This chapter analyzes the idea to see is to possess. It is very deep in itself, and therefore I would like to call MADHUSRI Manigandhan and Kevin Christopher to throw some light upon this chapter.
Hi everyone, now I will summarize chapter 7 from the book Ways of Seeing by John Berger. In this chapter, the author analyzes the idea to see is to possess. In today's world, the people are pushed to see publicity images wherever they go. This visual information sticks to their mind, creating a stimulation to own specific products to which they are attracted. These images are used as a competitive medium and as a sign of free world. Publicity proposes to buy something which makes people's life more efficient and rich in some way. Publicity begins from an appetite for natural pleasure, but it cannot offer the absolute object of pleasure. Publicity images often use references from sculptures, oil paintings, etc. to give a cultural authority, a form of dignity, wisdom, and remind its land of its birth. These images primarily rely on language of oil painting. It speaks the same voice about the same things, not only with pictorial correspondence, but also with the set of signs they use. It is a mistake to think that publicity replaces the visual art of post-Renaissance, but is a moribund form of it. Technological development also play a major role in turning the language of oil painting into cliches. The color photography helps to reproduce the color, texture, etc., which was only produced by oil paint. Color photography is to a buyer what oil paint is for owner. Thank you.
With this, we covered up all the chapters from this book, and now I would like to conclude this presentation by pointing out the central ideas of this book. All images contain more than what appears on the surface. The act of looking at a painting is never one-sided or static, but rather mutual and relational. Different spectators will engage with the same painting differently. Berger discusses the expansion of European colonial power. Throughout his discussion of the female nude, he evaluates whether the women represented in the painting he discusses are represented fairly. That's all for this. Thank you for your patient listening. Stay safe.